This story is so wild, it could be a movie. I thought I had a happy marriage for over 30 years, but now I'm not so sure. I've got 3 wonderful kids and run a convenience store and gas station. I'm not wealthy, but I do all right. A few years ago, my 28-year-old son ended up in the hospital with a serious kidney issue. He's married and has 2 kids of his own. My wife, Laura, or Laura as I call her, and I were scared out of our minds. The doctor mentioned he might need a transplant if things didn't improve and suggested we look into family donation options. Without telling Laura, I decided to get tested to see if I was a match. The results came back showing I wasn't compatible. I was stunned and asked the doctor why, since he's my son. The doctor, clearly uncomfortable, asked me to step into his office. "Mr. Miller, the test indicates that you're not his biological father. We're going to redo the test to confirm," he said. I was in complete shock and couldn't bring myself to tell Laura just yet. My mind was racing with questions about my other children, Sarah and Emily. Sarah is 26 and Emily is 20. I really hoped the doctor was wrong. 2 days later, the doctor gave us some good news. Jake's kidneys were improving, and he wouldn't need a transplant after all. We were all so relieved and cried tears of joy. Even then, I hadn't told Laura about the test results. The next day, I asked Laura, Sarah, and Emily for DNA samples, saying it would help with future medical issues. Laura was anxious but agreed, along with the others. I also got samples from Sarah's family. The hospital confirmed that Jake wasn't biologically mine. I requested them to test the other samples. "Mr. Miller, are any of these people related to you?" they asked. "They're all my family. I need to know if Sarah and Emily are my biological children," I replied. A few days later, Jake was discharged from the hospital and, after a week of recovery, was ready to get back to work. We were all thankful he didn't need dialysis or a transplant. I tried to stay composed, but the uncertainty about my daughters was eating at me. Laura noticed my strange behavior and questioned me about it almost every night. I told her I was just preoccupied with thoughts about our children, which wasn't entirely untrue. One evening, I came home to find Laura sobbing over some hospital paperwork. "When did you get this done and why?" she asked through her tears. I explained, I got tested to see if I could donate my kidney to our son. When the doctor told me I wasn't his biological father, I decided to test the girls too. Laura then broke down, revealing, "Sarah isn't yours, but Emily is." She was crying uncontrollably. "What do we do now, Tom?" she asked. I was at a loss. After 30 years of marriage, I just discovered that 2 of my children weren't mine. I told her, "We need to have a serious talk. Maybe we'll stay together, or maybe we won't." "Tom, that was over 28 years ago. Can't we leave the past behind?" she pleaded. "No, we can't. You had an affair. I need to understand who I've been raising. Sarah and Jake are siblings, so this wasn't a one-time thing." "Who were you seeing?" "It was Frank," she admitted. "It was a mistake, but it's in the past now." "Frank, our best friend who passed away 25 years ago?" I asked. "Did his wife Alice know? Did she join you?" "Please, Tom, let's not go there. I love you. This is ancient history. Can't we move on?" she implored. "Are you kidding me? We got married, and within a year you were having an affair with Frank. I ended up raising his child as my own. If he hadn't died, you'd probably still be with him. Explain yourself." Laura cried, but I needed the truth. "I know you and Frank were close. I loved him, but he chose Alice. I loved you too, but not as much. After he married Alice, I was depressed. You proposed, and I said yes, partly out of spite. I wanted to prove to Frank that I could move on. That's when the affair started. Frank would come around when you were away. It just happened. After I got pregnant with Jake, he stopped seeing me. He asked if the baby was his, and I told him I didn't know but wouldn't tell you unless he married me. He laughed and said you could raise the baby. Do you really think I'm that naive? I shot back. It just happened. What about Sarah? Did the same thing happen with her? I told him he couldn't come over unless you or Alice were present. I had feelings for him, but he was using me. One day, he forced himself on me and threatened to tell you about Jake. He hurt me and hoped to get me pregnant again. I couldn't tell you because I didn't want to lose you. After Sarah was born, Frank died in a car accident. I was sad but relieved. I could finally focus on us and put it all behind me. I loved you more and more. Didn't we have a good life? Yes, our marriage was good, but now I see it was built on lies. You cheated on me, married me while loving another man, and had children with him. Now you expect me to just forget all this? I can't. I'm going to see a lawyer and start divorce proceedings. Tom, you can't. What about our kids? What will you tell them? You can tell them. And just so you know, I don't believe you were molested. You would have continued the affair if Frank hadn't died. You have a week to tell me your side of the story. After that, I'll tell them the truth. I assume Jake and Sarah don't know I'm not their biological father? I asked. No one knows but me. And now you. Please, Tom, they love you. Don't hurt them by telling them their real father is someone they've never met. I am their father. I've raised them, and that won't change. We'll both stay here until the divorce is finalized unless you've got someone else. That's inappropriate, Tom, and you know it, Laura said, her voice heavy with emotion. The real issue here is that after 30 years, I don't know who you are. I'm moving into the guest bedroom. I don't want anything to do with you. Laura was in tears as I moved my things to the guest room. 2 days later, I received a call from the store. Laura's car had crashed after speeding and failing to make a turn. Tragically, she died on the spot. The sheriff looked into the incident, but since I reported no known issues, it was classified as an accident pending the autopsy. Breaking the news to our children was excruciating for everyone, and it made me question whether it was really an accident or if something more sinister was at play. Days later, the autopsy confirmed it was indeed an accident. At her funeral, I was deeply mourning despite our separation. 3 decades of shared history left me struggling with unresolved feelings. To keep things simple, I decided against consulting a lawyer. The day after the funeral, I asked my daughters and daughter-in-law to sort through Laura's belongings, keeping only a few treasured family photos. I was haunted by what-ifs, wondering if things could have been different or if fate had simply taken its course. Here's an update. This all happened 2 years ago, right before the holidays. I found myself alone once again. My son and oldest daughter live about 100 miles away, and I told them I could visit for a day or two. Emily, my youngest who's in college, was planning a trip to England with friends for the holidays. She was worried about me being alone, but I assured her I'd been managing fine on my own for 2 years, spending most of my days at the service station. One day, while watching TV, I saw a commercial asking for $24 a month to help children in third world countries. It made me skeptical about where the money really goes. The next day, I asked our local priest, Pastor Mark, if the church had a Christmas campaign to help local families. Yes, Tom, we do. Do you have a specific family in mind? He asked. No, I'm looking for a family that could use some help, I replied. Pastor Mark suggested a young widow with 3 kids whose husband had been killed by a criminal. She had moved to our town to start over. Thanks, Mark. I'll come by later to get the details, I said. Pastor Mark understood my intentions. Though I wasn't a regular churchgoer, I wanted to make a difference. I picked up the name Isabel Wilson from the church's giving tree. She worked as a waitress at Joe's, where I often ate. I decided to visit Joe's diner to meet her. At Joe's, I scanned the room and saw Isabel, who smiled and said she'd be right with me. Isabel was in her early 30s, pleasant-looking with shoulder-length dark hair. She wasn't particularly thin or heavy, just an attractive woman with a warm smile. "What can I do for you?" she asked. "Just a cup of coffee and a chat, if that's all right," I said. "Sure, coffee's fine, but I'm not so sure about the chat," she replied. "I'm not good at talking to women. This isn't a flirtation. I picked your name from the church tree and would like to be your friend for the holidays." "I'm not sure what you're looking for," she said, handing me my coffee. "Joe says you're okay, but I get hit on a lot and I'm not interested." "This is just my idea," I explained. "If you prefer, I can just buy gifts for your kids." I saw a commercial about donating to children overseas, and it got me thinking. I want to help a family through Thanksgiving and Christmas. I'm not wealthy, but I can help one family, and I chose yours. Isabel's eyes filled with tears. "Are you serious? I've been so worried about my kids this year." "You know, my husband was." "I know, Isabel. He was killed," I said gently. "Please, let me help you. If I'm overstepping, just let me know and I'll back off." "Why are you doing this? Don't you have family of your own to help?" "My wife passed away 2 years ago in a car accident," I said. "It's okay, Isabel. My holidays have been pretty lonely, and I want to make someone else's season a bit brighter. My kids are grown and doing well. So, what do you say? Can we be friends for the holidays? You have a kind face, Tom. For my kid's sake, I'll say yes. But please, no tricks. We've been through enough. Let's start by getting you some more coffee and figuring out what you need," I suggested. She poured me another cup and said she needed to get back to work but agreed to talk more after her shift. The next day, I invited her out to dinner, but she said she needed to be with her kids. Instead, she invited me to her home for dinner. "I'll bring pizza. Is pepperoni and cheese okay?" I asked. "That sounds great, but bring 2 pizzas. My 8-year-old can eat half of one himself," she smiled. When I arrived at her place, I realized she lived in a housing project. These places often have social services support but aren't the most ideal due to various issues. I was more determined than ever to help Isabel and her children. Her 8-year-old son greeted me at the door. "What do you want?" he asked. "I'm the pizza delivery guy." "Your mom invited me," I said. He grinned. "Mom said her friend is bringing pizza today. We don't get pizza from the store very often." As I walked in, 2 other kids ran up, shouting, "Pizza, pizza, pizza. Mommy, the pizza place is here." The 6-year-old yelled excitedly. Isabel appeared from another room, having tidied up. "Kids, where are your manners? I thought I taught you better." "Sorry, Mom. We were just excited," her oldest son said. "We don't get visitors often. Can we have pizza now?" "Kids, this is Tom, a friend of mine," Isabel introduced. "You can call him Uncle Tom or Mr. Tom," Isabel suggested. I cut in, "Just Tom works for me." "What's your name?" The oldest boy said, "I'm Mike. I'm 8 years old." Mark, the next in line, said, "I'm 6, and this is Molly, my little sister." Molly chimed in, "I'm Molly. I'm 4, soon to be 5. I'm really smart and I go to kindergarten." She had a strong resemblance to Isabel. We all gathered around to eat the pizza. Their furniture was worn out, and their TV had a fuzzy picture. As the kids munched on pizza and watched cartoons, I took the opportunity to ask Isabel what she needed. "Oh gosh, I wasn't prepared for this," Isabel said, sounding overwhelmed. We're managing, but my kids want things other kids have that I can't afford. You've seen our TV, its picture quality is terrible. We get clothes secondhand. They're wonderful kids, but I can't get them bikes or anything else that might be stolen. Any help would be appreciated. I'll see what I can do, I said. Mike, how about going to the movies on Saturday? There's a new Harry Potter film out. Really? That would be amazing. Mike exclaimed. Mom, can we go? Maybe, if you're good this week, Isabel said. And perhaps we can grab a bite at McDonald's afterward, I added. Molly's eyes lit up. I love McDonald's. They have happy meals and a playground. All right, Molly. Be good for Mommy, and we'll go, I said. The kids were excited, and Isabel was smiling. It felt great to see their happiness. We began spending weekends taking the kids to various fun places. I also started having lunch at Joe's more often, always sitting in Isabel's section and leaving generous tips. Tom, you don't need to do that, Isabel said. Just making my kids happy is enough. So you don't need the extra money? I asked with a smile. That's not fair, Tom, Isabel said, looking uncomfortable. I could use the money. I just feel awkward and indebted. Can I make you a Thanksgiving dinner or something? I want to do something for you, too. I'm helping because it makes me feel good, I replied. Seeing the kids smile is all I need. And your smile is a bonus. She looked a bit embarrassed and turned away. When Emily came home one weekend, she asked what was new. Dad, do you think this is a good idea? You don't really know her, she said. Honey, helping someone and seeing those kids' faces gives me a new sense of purpose, I said. I want you to meet Isabel and tell me what you think. I don't know, Dad, Emily said, looking uneasy. Isn't that a rough area for a single mom and her kids? That's exactly why I want to help them, I explained. You're grown up and don't need my help as much, so I feel it's important to support someone who does. I'll meet them, but I'm not making any promises, Emily said. I'll be honest with you. On Saturday, I invited Isabel and the kids over. It was a chilly day, so I decided to grill. Isabel arrived in a dilapidated car with the kids. Emily, ever the skeptic, said with a hint of sarcasm, "Nice car, Dad." If she had driven up in a new car, what would you say? I asked. Good idea, Dad. This is for you, Emily said, smiling. Mike and Mark rushed up to me. Hey, Uncle Tom. Wow, you live here? It's huge. I introduced them to Emily as Isabel was getting Molly out of the car. Mike, Mark, this is my daughter Emily. Hi, boys. It's nice to meet you, Emily said warmly. Hi, I'm Mike, 8 years old. And this is Mark, he's 6. That's our sister Molly. She's 4. Molly came over, and I lifted her up. Emily watched closely. Molly is my little buddy. She stands up to her brothers just like you used to, I said, laughing. Isabel, this is Emily, my pride and joy, I introduced them. They exchanged greetings, and I could almost see them sizing each other up. Isabel smiled and said, I know this is unusual. I'm sure you have questions. Let's enjoy today, and I'll do my best to answer them. Your dad is one of the nicest people I've met. Show me the kitchen, and we can cook together. Men think grilling is a full meal, but we know better. Emily looked at me and said, I like her already, Dad. They smiled, and we went inside. The kids explored the house, though I reminded them to stay out of the drawers and not run around. They came back, excitedly telling Isabel everything they had seen. They wanted to watch my big screen TV, so I suggested we go to the store to pick out some DVDs. They were thrilled, and Molly wanted to stay behind. Molly, why don't you stay with Emily and me to help cook? We girls need to stick together, Isabel suggested. Molly said, Uncle Tom, take the boys and go ahead. I need to help the girls cook. Her declaration was cute coming from a 4-year-old. I reassured her it was fine and promised to rent a movie just for her. I picked The Little Mermaid, and she was overjoyed. She invited Emily and Isabel to watch it with her, and told the boys they could join if they stayed quiet, acting like a little adult. We decided to host Thanksgiving at my place. Isabel and Emily would cook, and I would keep the kids entertained. With my pool, closed for the winter, and a hot tub, the kids would bring their swimsuits to enjoy, and then we'd watch movies on the big TV. Emily said she'd get in touch with Jake and Sarah about the plans and remind them to bring swimsuits if they wanted to use the hot tub. After Isabel and the kids went home, Emily and I talked. Dad, Isabel is really nice, Emily said. She's hardworking and has been through a lot with her husband's death, Emily said. I get why you want to help her and her kids. She seems genuinely grateful and cares about you. I hope she's at least a little appreciative, I replied. No, Dad, Emily said. I think she might really like you, maybe even love you. She didn't come right out and say it, but I can sense it. I think you might be feeling the same way. Really? I asked. I'm just happy to be helping. This is the happiest I've felt since Mom passed. I just want you to be aware, Emily said. You've got a connection with her. Be careful. Emily's words struck a chord. I felt a strong bond with Isabel and her kids. Jake and Sarah were hesitant at first but eventually agreed to join us for Thanksgiving, understanding my involvement through the Church Tree Initiative. Isabel and Emily managed the arrangements smoothly, with Isabel taking the lead in planning. Emily's visits home on weekends became a routine, and I continued frequenting Joe's for lunch, often dropping by Isabel's apartment to visit the kids and bring them small treats. Tom, you're spoiling them, Isabel would tease. Despite occasionally feeling uneasy watching Isabel interact with male customers who flirted with her, I reminded myself that I had no claim to jealousy. Update: on Thanksgiving morning, Isabel and her kids arrived early. Isabel looked lovely in a simple, yet elegant outfit. The kitchen was already bustling with activity as Emily and Isabel prepared the feast. Emily mentioned she'd invited her boyfriend, Ethan, a paramedic still in college, who would be joining us for the meal. They were set to leave for England just before Christmas for a hospital project, returning in January. Jake, his wife Megan, and my grandkids arrived next. After warm greetings, the kids immediately asked about the hot tub. I introduced them to Isabel's children, and they quickly bonded. Emily introduced Jake and Megan to Isabel, describing her as a good friend, which pleased me. Jake seemed intrigued, while Megan offered to help in the kitchen. Soon after, Sarah and Brian arrived with their kids, who eagerly headed to the basement to play with the toys and gadgets there. The adults tried to stay out of the way, but the men couldn't help but be curious about Isabel. I found myself awkwardly explaining her situation without revealing too much of my own feelings. So, how old is she? Jake asked. She's about your age? She's 31, I replied. She's a wonderful person who deserves support. Brian interjected, aren't you worried she might develop feelings for you, or you for her? I'm a widower, and she's a widow, I said. If something develops, so be it. But right now, I'm just focused on helping her. Sorry, Dad, Jake said. It's none of my business. I know you must miss Mom. It's been 2 years. This has nothing to do with your mother, I said firmly. If I find someone attractive, it's my business. Let's just check on the kids. We went downstairs, where the children were getting along well. Isabel's kids blended seamlessly with mine. Molly frequently came up to chat with me, which made Jake uneasy but was endearing to Brian. Emily brought Ethan down to meet everyone. Mr. Miller, it's great to meet you. Emily has told me a lot about you, Ethan said. Good to meet you, Ethan, I said. I've heard about you as well. How are things with you and Emily? Busy with school and work, Ethan said. But we're going on a trip soon. I plan to propose to her in front of Big Ben. Do I have your permission? Ethan, you don't need my permission, I replied. But if you need my blessing, you have it. I think you should ask her. Don't mention the proposal just yet. Make sure she's ready. Thank you, Mr. Miller. I'll keep it quiet, Ethan said. The afternoon was delightful. Dinner was fantastic, and everyone had a great time. The kids enjoyed the hot tub, though the adults stayed out. Isabel and I had discussed using it another time, and I was looking forward to that. As the evening wound down, Emily and Ethan left for some private time together. I helped Isabel with the cleanup, and Sarah and Megan joined in. Jake wished Isabel well before leaving, and Sarah pulled me aside. Dad, Isabel is great, but she's quite a bit younger than you, she said. I'm helping her because I want to, I explained. If something more develops, that's between us. I know she cares about me. Just be careful, Sarah advised. She's probably not dating anyone else right now, but you should still be cautious. After everyone had left, Isabel gathered her kids and thanked me for the wonderful time. Something compelled me to lean in and kiss her. It was a soft, lingering kiss. When we pulled away, she had tears in her eyes. You didn't have to do that, Tom, she said softly. I have to go. She gathered the kids, who quickly said their goodbyes and got into the car. I approached her car window and said, I'm sorry if I overstepped. Please forgive me. She looked at me with a tender smile and said, the problem is, Tom, I've been hoping you would do that for a long time. She drove away, leaving me anxious and worried about what I had done. On Monday, I went to the restaurant, but Isabel wasn't there. Joe told me she had taken Molly to daycare and would be back soon. I planned to return to the restaurant at lunchtime, but work called me in to cover a shift. I wanted to give Isabel some space after what happened. When I got home, my phone rang. It was Isabel, her voice shaky. Hi, Tom, she said. I'm so sorry to bother you, but our apartment was broken into. They took everything, our furniture, the TV, even the kids' toys. We're left with nothing but our clothes. That's terrible, I said. Don't worry, Isabel. Pack up what you can and bring the kids. I'll be there in 15 minutes. We'll sort this out together. I didn't know who else to turn to, Isabel said, her voice breaking. I'm glad you called me, I reassured her. Just get packed up, and I'll see you soon. When I arrived at Isabel's place, it was clear they were in distress. Molly was crying, her small frame trembling. I scooped her up, trying to offer comfort. Isabel, we're going to stay at my house tonight, I said gently. You can pack up your car with the essentials, and I'll drive it for you. Let's get you and the kids settled somewhere safe. Isabel looked taken aback. I thought you might help us find a motel or something. No, you're coming home with me, I said firmly. I'll drive your car, just get everything together. We'll manage. Isabel quickly gathered her things. I talked to the police officer, giving him my contact information and explaining the situation. He noted that recovering their belongings would be unlikely, so we loaded Isabel's car and headed to my house. When we arrived, Isabel and the kids stood on the porch, unsure about entering. Why didn't you come inside? I asked. You weren't here yet, Isabel said. We didn't want to intrude. Let's get these bags inside, I said, leading the way. Mike and Mark, take your stuff up to the bunk bedroom. Molly and your mom's things go in the front bedroom. If you're unsure, just leave it in the living room. I turned to Isabel. We need to talk about arrangements. Molly, Help your brothers organize, I instructed. Tom, this is really kind, but we can't impose on you, Isabel said. What about your kids? What will they think? Isabel, this is about helping you right now, I said. Let's make this work for a few days. You and Molly can share the front bedroom, and the boys can stay upstairs. But what about the kids' routines? Isabel asked. Mike needs to go to school, and Molly has kindergarten. I still need to work. It won't disrupt their routines, I assured her. You might need to adjust your schedule a bit. I can help with school runs and drop-offs. Just inform the schools of the situation and give them my name. It'll be fine. Tom, I care about you a lot, Isabel said, her eyes searching mine. I need you to know that. I'm aware, I said softly. But let's focus on the immediate needs right now. I'm not apologizing for kissing you. I meant it, and I want you to know how I feel. I went upstairs to check on the boys' room and ensure everything was in order. Isabel helped them unpack, while Molly and I sorted out her things. Once everyone was settled, Molly raised her hand, making me smile. What's up, Molly? I asked. Can we play with the toys in the basement? She asked shyly. Of course, I said. You can play with anything downstairs. We'll talk to Santa about bringing you some new toys soon. Molly raised her hand again. Can I go play now? Absolutely, Isabel said. I'll join you in a bit. The kids ran downstairs, excited. One of them called, Uncle Tom, can we turn on the TV? Yes, but keep it down, I said. Isabel gave me a heartfelt hug, her eyes brimming with tears. I don't know what I would have done without you, she said, her voice choked. I'll always be here for you, I replied, holding her close. Let's check on the kids. We went to the basement together. The kids' laughter filled the space, creating a warm, familial atmosphere. It felt comforting, like how things used to be when Laura and I watched our children play. As the evening wore on, Isabel organized the kids' bedtime routine. She asked them to bathe and get ready for bed, directing the boys to use the upstairs bathroom and Molly to use the main bathroom on the first floor. Isabel, this is your home now, I said. Molly can use the big tub, and I'll use the basement shower if needed. Make yourselves comfortable. While Isabel got the kids ready, I retreated to my office to finish up some work. I noticed Molly peeking in, dressed in her nightgown. Hi, Molly. Do you need anything? I asked. I want to say goodnight, she said, but Mom said I should wait for you to invite me in. Come on in, sweetheart, I said, patting my lap. She climbed onto my lap, wrapped her arms around me, and kissed my cheek. Good night, Uncle Tom, she said with a sleepy smile. Good night, Molly. Where's Mommy? Upstairs, trying to get Mike and Mark to settle down, she replied. Let's go see if we can help, I suggested. We went upstairs and found Mike and Mark in the midst of an argument. But Mom, Mike always gets his way just because he's older, Mark complained. I only wanted the top bunk, and he said he gets to choose because he's older. Isabel looked at Mike. Is that true, Mike? Mike shrugged. Yeah, but I'm older, so I should get to choose. Mike, you're only 2 years older. That doesn't mean you should always get your way, Isabel said. Is it really worth arguing over who gets the top bunk? Why don't you share it and take turns? Mike glanced at Mark. All right, Mark, you can have the top bunk this month, and I'll take it next month. We'll swap every month. Deal? Deal, Mark agreed, climbing into the top bunk. Isabel smiled, relieved. You feel good about that, don't you, Mike? Yeah, I guess so, Mom, Mike admitted. Isabel kissed her sons goodnight, then helped Molly settle into bed. I need to get back to my papers and get ready for bed myself, she said. I returned to my office, hearing the shower running and thinking about Isabel. When she emerged, her hair damp and clad in a nightgown and robe, she looked serene. "Good night, Tom, and thanks for everything," she said softly. I looked up and grinned. "Is there anything you don't look good in?" Isabel laughed and headed to her room. I inhaled the faint scent she left behind and continued with my work. The next morning was a whirlwind. Isabel asked me to call Joe and let him know she might be late. She needed to notify the school and daycare about the address change. When I called Joe, he expressed concern about Isabel's situation and asked if I was serious about her. "I'm serious, Joe," I reassured him. "I care about Isabel and her kids deeply. I would never harm them." Later that evening, we returned to Isabel's old apartment to gather what remained of her belongings. She returned her keys and informed the apartment office of the move due to the break-in. Mike and Mark rode with me in the truck while Isabel and Molly followed in her car. When we got back, Isabel received a call from Emily. After explaining the situation, Emily asked to speak with me. "Dad, are you sure about this?" Emily asked. "You know she loves you, right?" "What should I have done, Emily?" "Just give her money and send her on her way," I replied. "I care about her. We're adults, and I'm genuinely happy she and the kids are here. It feels almost like the good old days." "Dad, it's a fine line," Emily said. "I care about Isabel like a sister, but you two need to be cautious and understand the implications of what you're doing." "Okay, let's take it one day at a time. Maybe things will work out," I said. Mike and Mark came in, interrupting our conversation. "Uncle Tom, can we go in the hot tub?" Mike asked. I looked at Isabel, who had been listening. "Only if your mom comes with you. You can't go in alone." "Come on, Mom, please," the boys pleaded. "It's warm and has lots of bubbles." "All right, boys," Isabel said. "Get your swimsuits on, and Molly, you get yours too. I'll be right there." She turned to me, smiling knowingly. "You set this up, didn't you?" I just grinned in response. "I think you look great in everything you wear. I bet you look even more stunning without anything on." "Creep," she teased, laughing as she walked toward the hot tub. The kids were excited to see her in the water. I watched as Isabel settled into the hot tub, her presence adding a new warmth to the scene. As I handed Isabel a drink, she said, "This feels wonderful. My body really needed this." "The kids are loving it," Mike said, grinning. "Thanks, Uncle Tom. This is really cool." I took one last look at Isabel, then went back to finish my paperwork. Later, as I heard everyone getting ready for bed, Molly peeked into my office, her smile bright. "Hi, Molly. Do you need anything?" I asked. "I want to say goodnight," she said, climbing into my lap. "Mom said I should wait for you to say it's okay." "Come on in," I said, hugging her close. Molly kissed me and snuggled in. "Good night, Uncle Tom. See you in the morning." I owned a gas station with a small grocery store and occasionally used a tow truck. When Isabel called, saying her car wouldn't start again, I went to help her. At the diner, two guys offered to jumpstart her battery, clearly flirting with her. Isabel declined, saying her friend was coming. When I arrived, they quickly backed off. "Thanks, but I've got this," I said, making them nervous as they left. I hooked up her car and helped her into the truck. As she adjusted her dress, showing a bit of leg, she said, "Thanks for coming, Tom." "I told you I'd always be there for you," I replied. "Are you upset that someone else offered to help?" she asked. "Yes and no," I said. "I want people to see how amazing you are, but it bothers me when they hit on you." "I didn't do anything wrong, Tomas," she said. "I'm not yours to control. You told those guys I was your fiancé." "Why?" I didn't answer, leaving her question hanging in the air as we drove off. I drove straight to the junkyard. Isabel looked puzzled. "Why are we here, Tom?" "I'm going to offer you a couple hundred for that old car," I said. "Get your personal stuff out and put it in this garbage bag. We'll sort it out later." "But what am I supposed to drive?" Isabel asked. "We'll talk about it later. We need to get the kids," I replied. She quickly packed up her belongings, and we got $300 for the car. We picked up Molly's car seat and headed home. I opened the garage and showed Isabel my old car. "It's not much, but it's a good car," I said. "Only 8,000 miles and 4 years old. I bought it with the insurance money from Laura's accident. I usually drive the truck, so it's barely used." Isabel installed Molly's car seat and left to pick up the kids. When they returned, Mark excitedly announced, "We have a new car now, and it's nicer than the old one." Isabel asked, "Tom, how much do you want for the car?" "Just drive it," I said. "You need something better." "I'll keep it in my name and cover the insurance. It'll save you money." "But what if we don't stay together? What if I move?" Isabel questioned. "Are you thinking of moving?" I asked. "No, I was just wondering what would happen with the car if things didn't work out," she said. "I'm sorry. I was taken aback by our first argument over the car." "Isabel, I promise you'll always have a car. I can put it in writing if you want. I'm just concerned about you being safe. I want you here with me." She kissed me, and it felt good. Molly, noticing the kiss, said, "Mom just kissed Uncle Tom." "It's a thank you for letting us use his car," Isabel explained. "No, it's your mother's car now. She kissed me because I gave it to her." "Okay, everyone," Isabel said. "Time to get ready for dinner. Should I cook, or should we go to McDonald's in our new car?" "McDonald's," the kids cheered. On Friday, while Isabel was at work, my kids, Jake, Sarah, and Emily, came over. "Dad, we need to talk. Can we go to your house for a bit?" Jake asked. "Sure, come on in," I said, sensing the gravity of the situation. When I got home, they were waiting in the living room. "Dad, this is about Isabel and her kids," Jake began. "Seriously, Jake? You drove 2 hours for this?" I responded. "What did Isabel do to make you dislike her so much?" "It's not that we dislike her," Sarah said. "It's just that one day you're helping her, and the next she and her kids are living here. And the car, you gave it to her?" "Let me explain," I said. "But I'm disappointed in how you're reacting." "Dad, I think Isabel is using you," Jake said. "You're lonely, and she meets your needs. You fell in love, and now her kids are taken care of." "Crap, Jake," Emily jumped in. "I know Isabel better than you. She loves Dad, and he loves her. I'm here to support them." "Jake, if you weren't my son, I'd knock you off your chair," I said. "What should I have done when Isabel needed help?" I asked. "Give her money? Ignore her?" I did what I thought was right. "Dad, are you saying you haven't been intimate with her?" Sarah asked. "No, we haven't," I said. "And I'm thinking of asking Isabel to marry me." "What?" Jake exclaimed. "You barely know her. She has a lot of baggage. And she's closer to my age than yours." "You all have your own lives," I said. "I've found someone I care about who cares about me. I have a big house to share. Why are you against it?" "Okay, Dad," Jake said. "Let's say you love each other. Do you really want to start over raising 3 young kids?" "I love those kids," I said. "They remind me of when you and I used to play. Molly hugs me and sits on my lap like you did when you were little. They're great kids, and I can make a big difference in their lives. Dad, you're being too idealistic, Jake said. They're not your biological children. Do you really want to spend the next 20 years raising kids that aren't yours? What do you think, Sarah? I asked. Should they be my biological kids for me to care about them? I don't know, Sarah said. I love you, and you'll always be my father. But raising Isabel's kids is a different issue. I have something to show you, I said. I went to get the DNA test results. Your mom and I kept some secrets. It might be a mistake to reveal this, but you need to understand. I love Isabel's kids and believe I can be a good father to them. I handed the DNA results to them. What is this? Sarah asked. These are your DNA results, I said. They show that Jake and Sarah share the same biological parents. Emily's results are different, meaning only one of her parents is the same as yours. Emily started crying. Are you saying you're not my biological father? No, Emily, I said. I'm not Jake's or Sarah's biological father. But that doesn't change anything. You are all my children in my heart. The room was silent with shock. What? Jake asked. You've always been my children, I said. Nothing changes except what you know now. It's not just blood that makes a family. It's love and compassion. I plan to tell you about your biological father, I said. But I want you to know that I've always loved you as my own. The past with their mother was behind us, and I was determined to keep the divorce a secret from them. Your mom and I got married when we were both young. Frank Dawson and I were both in love with her. Frank, too, loved Alice, and they ended up marrying after she became pregnant. I, in turn, married your mom and was genuinely happy. Later on, your mom revealed that she had also married Frank, but we all remained friends. When your mom was pregnant with you, Jake, and then with Sarah, everything seemed fine. However, after Sarah's birth, Frank passed away, and your mom fell into a deep depression. She admitted that you two were actually Frank's children. I was stunned, and we separated for a month. I missed you kids terribly, so we talked things through and decided to stay together. From then on, your mom was a great wife, and I loved you both as if you were my own. Then Emily was born, and she was undoubtedly my child. We enjoyed a happy life until your mom had her accident. Dad, why did you take the kidney test if you weren't my biological father? Jake asked. I prayed and hoped I would be a match for you, Jake. You were my son, and I would have given you my kidney in a heartbeat. Did you check for a match before Jake went to the hospital? Sarah inquired. No, the test was expensive, and your mom had already told me the truth. I wasn't expecting any surprises. When I took the test, I already knew what the results would be. By the way, I have the test results for all your families. Jake, you and Megan are the biological parents of your children. Sarah, you and Brian are also the biological parents of your children. Your mom was a wonderful mother and wife. Let's leave it at that. I'm sorry, Dad. I was focused more on us than on you and Isabel, Jake said, tears welling up. Jake, in these situations, people often worry about inheritance. I think you're more concerned about that than about me and Isabel. All three of you will always be included in my will, each getting a fair share. I'm disappointed that you haven't shown more compassion for Isabel and her kids. Sarah hugged me tightly, expressing her disbelief in the test results and insisting that I would always be her father. I returned the hug. Just as I was about to hug Emily, Isabel arrived. Well, it looks like we're all heading out for dinner unless you want to tell Isabel why you're here, I said. Isabel walked in and asked, Hi everyone, what's the occasion? Emily quickly thought on her feet. It's my last day off before going back to work, so we decided to go out to dinner. Great. Give me a moment to change out of my waitress uniform. Kids, chat with Emily, Sarah, and Jake while I get dressed, Isabel said. Molly hugged Jake and said, "Hi Jake, I like you." Jake glanced at me, understanding my intention. Mike asked Sarah, "Did you bring your kids so we can play?" "We're learning to share our toys better." "No, they're at home." "Maybe you can visit after Christmas," Sarah replied. "Can I, Uncle Tom?" "I've never been to their house," Mike asked. "We'll see, Mike." "It's still a couple of weeks away," I said. Emily asked Mark what was new. "We bought a new car, and Mom kissed Uncle Tom," Mark shared. Everyone looked at me, but Isabel stepped in to explain. "Yes, Mike, I kissed him twice because he let us use the car. We're using it to go to dinner now. Come on, kids, back in the car. Uncle Tom will drive, so you all sit in the back." After dinner, Jake privately apologized. "I'm sorry, Dad. I shouldn't have questioned you." "It's okay to have doubts, Jake. It's just about how you approached it. If my actions upset you, let's talk it through until we understand each other." His smile when I referred to him as my son meant a lot. Later, I talked with Sarah too. I wanted my kids to know I was always there for them. I'm still not sure if telling them was the right decision, but it's done now. Emily asked if I could babysit while she shopped with Isabel. I gave them a list and some money, asking them to store the items for me. I wanted to get bicycles for the kids now that they could ride safely in our neighborhood. I asked Isabel if she needed any money for shopping. "No, I'm just buying for you and the kids for Christmas. I got $300 from selling my old car. I'm too proud to take more money. I want to get nice things for the kids without spoiling them, which isn't easy," Isabel replied. I borrowed Isabel's car to take the kids shopping. She chuckled, "Just be careful and don't eat in it." I've only had it for a few days. We visited Santa and took pictures. I told the kids we were shopping for their mom for Christmas and gave each of them $20, explaining it was just for her gift. "Keep it in your pocket and only take it out when you're ready to pay," I instructed. The kids initially looked at expensive items, so I took them to a store with more affordable choices. The clerk helped them find gifts within their budget, and I asked to be notified if they needed more money. The kids worked hard to choose the perfect gifts for their mom. Mike asked, "Can I borrow $5, Uncle Tom? Mom loves unicorns, and this one costs $25. I'll give you the extra if you wash my truck." "Deal." "Thanks, Uncle Tom," Mike said, and dashed off to buy the unicorn. Mark was eyeing movies. "Mark, remember, you're shopping for your mom. She likes Titanic and Shrek, but I don't have enough for both. Take them both. Here's some extra money. When Mike washes my truck, help him out," I said. "Thanks, Uncle Tom. Mom will love them," Mark replied. Molly couldn't find a gift she liked. I whispered to the saleswoman, "None of these smell like Mom white diamonds." "Sir, it's $50. She only has $20. Tell her it's on special for $20, and I'll cover the difference," I said. "Molly," the saleswoman said, "I have a bottle of perfume that smells just like your mom. It's the last one and costs exactly $20. Molly smiled, paid for the perfume, and we collected our purchases. We visited Santa again, and I asked the kids to help me find a gift for Emily. She was going to England, and I wanted to get her new luggage. The kids were thrilled to help, so I played along as if I needed their guidance while we checked out the luggage section. "This way, Uncle Tom. The suitcases are over here," they pointed out. "Thanks, guys. Now I need a set with 5 pieces," I said. They soon found a set with just what we needed. "I want to help, Uncle Tom. What can I do?" Molly asked eagerly. "You can pick out a color for Emily," I suggested. Molly initially picked a bright pink set, but it only had 3 pieces. She continued her search and eventually found a dark blue set with 5 pieces, which we decided to buy. After making our purchase, we stopped for lunch and then headed back home. The kids carefully hid their presents for Mom in my office and placed Emily's luggage on her bed, adding a Christmas card signed by all three. When Emily got home, she was over the moon to find the luggage and showered the kids with hugs and thanks. The next few weeks flew by with work and the kids' activities at school. For the first time in 3 years, we decorated a Christmas tree, which made the holiday season feel extra special. With Emily in England, we planned to visit Sarah and Jake the day after Christmas. Despite the hectic holiday preparations, our evenings were cozy as we watched Christmas specials together. I bought Isabel a few gifts, including a gift certificate, an engagement ring, and a striking red nightgown. On Christmas morning, the kids were excited to discover presents under the tree and in their stockings. Watching their joy and Isabel's happiness was truly heartwarming. Isabel received her favorite movies from Mark, a unicorn from Mike, and perfume from Molly. Molly proudly said, "Mommy, that was the last bottle, and I had just enough money." Isabel smiled when she saw the $50 price tag. I received thoughtful gifts from Isabel as well. She mentioned that Emily helped her choose them. I had also hidden bikes for each child around the house, and their excitement when they found them was priceless. Molly and Mark got training wheels, but we knew Mark wouldn't use them since his older brother didn't. While the kids played, I handed Isabel a large box filled with nightgowns. "Wow, what made you buy this?" she asked. "This comes with it," I said, presenting a small package. When she opened it and saw the engagement ring, she was overwhelmed with emotion. I asked her to marry me. "Why, Tom?" "Why?" she asked, puzzled. "Because I love you and want us, along with the kids, to be together forever." "So, is your answer yes?" "Tom, the answer is no. Please hear me out. I love you, but we've only been together for a couple of months. After the holidays, things will return to normal. I have a proposal for you. Let's rent out our rooms and I'll give you $200 a week. I want us to live as a family. If after 6 months you think it's not working, we'll figure out other arrangements. I just need you to be sure and see that I truly love you. All I'm asking for is time. I'm not going anywhere unless you send me away." She returned the ring and kissed me gently. She wanted to keep the nightgown, suggesting we take our time and ensure marriage was the right step for both of us. I could accept that, hoping it would bring us closer together. The kids spent the day playing with their new toys. Despite the cold, they were eager to ride their bikes, so Isabel and I bundled up and watched them. In the afternoon, Emily called from England to announce her engagement. We congratulated her and wished her a Merry Christmas. That evening, we settled in to watch a Christmas movie. The kids thanked me for giving them the best Christmas ever. Afterward, Isabel took a shower, and I could smell her perfume wafting down the hallway. She appeared at my door in her new nightgown and asked, "Tom, I love you, but we need to delay the wedding until we get to know each other better. Can we start tonight? Will you make love to me?" She smiled as she walked in, and we spent an unforgettable night together. The next morning, Isabel was asleep with Molly. I made coffee and prepared for the day. We had breakfast and then went to Sarah's for Christmas dinner, where Jake and his family were also joining us. We exchanged gifts, and I was touched that they included Isabel and her kids. Emily explained our tradition of not buying gifts for adults, but Jake mentioned that Megan thought Isabel would look great in a sweater. Later, Jake asked if I had proposed to Isabel. "I did, but she turned me down," I replied. "What? I can't believe it. She loves you, Dad. What happened?" "She thinks it's too soon. She wants to make sure we're making the right decision and also wants to contribute financially. She doesn't want handouts, just a loving relationship. So, we're giving it time." "Wow, Dad, don't lose her. She's special." "We'll give it time, Jake. We'll give it time." Life moved forward, and we continued to build our family. Isabel and I shared cooking duties and managed our expenses with a joint checking account. Major purchases were discussed together. Although I usually had lunch at Joe's, I waited for Isabel to join me. We lived like a married couple, minus the arguments, and our love made everything better. Emily noticed our closeness but kept her thoughts to herself. As Emily's wedding approached, she asked Isabel to be her maid of honor, which brought tears of joy to Isabel's eyes. Although she had considered asking Molly to be the flower girl, she chose one of her nieces instead. The lead-up to Emily's wedding was a whirlwind. She had just graduated, and we were caught up in the planning. My girlfriend was a bridesmaid. Fortunately, the weather was nice enough for us to open the pool, which kept the kids entertained while Emily and Isabel tackled wedding preparations. I stayed close by to support them. As the wedding drew near, I found myself reflecting on my relationship with Isabel. I had grown to love her kids, and they seemed to love me right back. I had a special surprise planned for Isabel since we hadn't talked about marriage since Christmas. On the wedding day, I slipped into my tuxedo and looked around. Jake and Brian were part of the wedding party, along with Sarah and Megan. Everyone was dressed to the nines, and the ceremony was about to begin. Isabel, as a bridesmaid, was preoccupied with her duties. I took my place with her kids in the front row, reminding them to be on their best behavior. I was honored to walk Emily down the aisle. As the music started, Sarah made her way down the aisle, greeted quietly by the kids. Megan followed, receiving a similar warm reception. When Isabel appeared next, the kids greeted her with enthusiasm, which led her to ask them to settle down. The flower girl and ring bearer, Sarah and Brian's children, followed, and the kids waved at them. Then it was Emily's turn to walk down the aisle with me. Tears of joy welled up in our eyes as Molly exclaimed, "Wow, Aunt Emily looks like a princess." Emily couldn't help but smile and chuckle at the comment. After taking my seat, I looked around at my family, Sarah, Megan, Isabel, Emily, and Ethan, the future son-in-law. Jake and Brian stood beside them while my grandchildren fulfilled their roles. At the reception, Isabel joined me for our first dance. "I love you, Isabel," I said, and she replied, "I love you too, Tom." Then she asked, "Are you serious? Do you really want this?" "Tom, I mean it deeply," she said, kissing me for the first time in front of everyone. Later, it was time for the bouquet toss. Jake encouraged Isabel to participate since she was single. Emily threw the bouquet directly to her. Next came the garter toss. Ethan handed it to me, saying, "This belongs to my father-in-law." Everyone, including Isabel, watched with interest. Isabel sat down, and I got down on one knee to slide the garter up her leg. When I reached her hip, I pulled out a wedding ring from my pocket and stayed on one knee. "Isabel," I began, "after another 6 months surrounded by our loved ones, I propose to you. Will you marry me?" The room fell silent as everyone waited for her response. Then, Molly stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "Say yes, Mommy," she urged. "Tom, I love you with all my heart. I'll do whatever it takes to make you happy." "Yes, I'll marry you," Isabel finally said. The room erupted in cheers. Emily and Isabel shared a heartfelt embrace, both in tears. It was clear there wasn't a dry eye in the room, including mine, as I kissed my soon-to-be bride. Now that we were happily engaged, Isabel decided to leave her job at Joe's Diner to help manage the gas station and convenience store. She was well-liked and made the workplace feel more like a family. We were considering adoption, a decision we planned to make together. Molly already called me Daddy, while the boys sometimes switched between Daddy and Uncle Tom, probably to keep their friends guessing. As I reflect on our life together, I can't help but wonder how things might have turned out differently if Frank Dawson or Laura's accident hadn't happened. The fragility of life and the impact of early mistakes weigh on my mind. Now, as I snuggle with my new wife on the couch, We watch our blended family play on the floor while enjoying a love story on TV. Mark's Christmas gift, Titanic, brings us together, although Molly often drifts off halfway through.